The clash of swords echoed through the valley. Dust and blood mixed with the cries of warriors as the two great communities, once united by trade and kinship, now fought with a bitter hatred. In the midst of the chaos stood Kaba, a strong and fearless warrior. His eyes burned with fury as he cut through his enemies, driven by a rage he barely understood. Amid the bodies of fallen warriors, elders from both sides looked on in despair. The gods had turned their faces away, and the land was barren from war. Famine swept the villages, and the rivers ran dry. It was clear this fight would not end until the gods were appeased. While the war was still raging, the leaders from both communities met with the spokesman of the gods in search of peace for the communities. The chief priest decreed that a marriage would be the only way to heal the wounds of war. Kaba, the handsome young hero of his people Umwadika, was chosen to marry Nala, the most beautiful maiden from the rival community Umumazu, as a symbol of peace. But the gods demanded a ritual. Kaba would offer a calabash of eggs, and if Nala accepted it, peace would reign once again. The ceremony of peace was expected to last for 7 days, and the elders were asked to go home and prepare for it. The sun rose on the first day of the ceremony, casting a golden light on the gathered communities. Kaba, dressed in the finest warrior attire, stood tall and proud. Nala, with her delicate features and graceful movements, approached and greeted the elders. Her smile was strained, as if hiding a deep sorrow. In the crowd stood another figure, one who was not meant to be there, Ika, the captured warrior from Nala's village, a prince hidden away and sacrificed to the gods of Kaba's land. Ika had once been Nala's childhood friend, a brotherly figure who had saved her life during a raid many years ago. The ceremony began, but whispers of Ika's fate spread like wildfire among the villagers. He was accused of defying the gods and sentenced to death. Nala, desperate and heartbroken, pleaded with Kaba to intervene. Her eyes filled with tears as she begged, but Kaba, suspicious of her affection for Ika, turned away in anger. The guilt gnawed at Kaba, but his pride was a heavy burden. Eventually, he sought out the chief priest, intending to save Ika, but it was too late. A misguided acolyte, eager to appease the gods, had already beheaded the prince. The news sent shockwaves through both communities. Nala could not sleep that night, having witnessed the lifeless body of her friend. Her grief turning into a silent, deep-seated rage. This was her childhood friend, a brother she never had, who had always protected and cared for her. A cold feeling of helplessness and fear of the future assailed her. She could no longer think of the handsome, soon-to-be husband with love. Her eyes only held sadness, pain, and betrayal. Why did he not save him? She sobbed. 2 days after Ika's death, the elders gathered once more to continue with the ceremony. Not even the death of a forsaken prince will stop the restoration of peace for the communities. The villagers feasted and danced, but the joy felt hollow. Kaba approached Nala with the calabash of eggs as directed by the chief priest, his heart heavy with regret. Nala emerged from the hut, her beauty even more radiant in the morning light. She sang a haunting song as she danced, her voice filled with sorrow. It was a song of love and betrayal, of trust broken and friendships lost. Tears streamed down her face as she sang of her friend who had been like a brother, now dead because of the whims of the gods and the stubbornness of men. She stopped in front of Kaba, her eyes meeting his. For a moment, it seemed as if the world stood still. Then, instead of accepting the calabash, she knelt before him. From beneath her wrapper, she pulled out a dagger and drove it into her own heart. The crowd gasped. Kaba dropped the calabash, his hands shaking as he caught her in his arms. "Why did you not save him?" she whispered with her final breath, her eyes filled with an unspoken accusation before they closed forever. Kaba's cry of anguish filled the air and chaos erupted. The peace talks crumbled, and the communities returned to war. Kaba disappeared into the wilderness, never to be seen again. Generations passed. The ancient tale of Kaba, Nala, and the captured Prince Ika had faded into legend, but the gods remembered. Hostilities continued, and intermarriage and friendship between the communities were forbidden, cursed by the high priest himself for defiance of the gods. Will has desecrated the land. Then, one day, in a twist of fate, Ago, a young man from Nala's lineage, was saved from certain death by a Mitu, a descendant of Kaba. As they stood together, panting from the ordeal, their eyes suddenly widened in realization. Please like, follow, and subscribe. Watch out for the continuation of the story in Part 2.